Good afternoon. This session today is the IntelliBid Kickoff, and this meeting is designed for new users who need to get the program set up, administrative people who need to get the program set up. Right now, I am currently logged in as an administrator, so I'm very limited on what I can do. If you notice, there's not a lot that I can do being logged in as an administrator. But the first thing as I log in, one of the things I want to check is what version of the software I have and what features. So if I click on Home and About, it first tells me the version of the software that I'm on and the database version. It shows how many licenses I have. And if I click on feature status, I can also see what other features I have within this program. Now, once I'm here, one of the things that I want to do is set up my own company information. When I first logged into the system, I logged in as admin, and it wants me to put my company ID and my company name. Now, for my company name, I'm going to say it's Continental Electric. And my ID and my name can be the same thing, or it could be a short name. It does not matter. So I go in and I type in the information here that I need. Once I type it in, company type is extremely important. I am considered a competitor. I put in my address here as well so that when I am printing out my reports, I will have a nice professional looking report as I use the program. So I will go ahead now and set up my address. Once I type that information in, every time I put in a company, I need to choose a contact. Now, in this case, these contacts will be the people within my company, more of my office personnel, my estimators, my project manager, maybe a purchasing person, the owner, whoever I think might have to use this program. So again, I'm going to add, and if I wanted to put in my own name, I could put in my first name and my last name, click OK. If I want to give myself a job title, I certainly can. I can continue to add in other folk who will use this program. I'm just typing in, and if I want to give them a job title, I certainly can, or I don't have to. It's just a visual as I start to put things in. So I'm adding in my users. Okay. Now, once I type all of that information in, all of this is set up as far as what I've typed in. Now, what other company contacts could I put in here? Maybe this is where I want to list all of my supply houses, all of my vendors, all of the general contractors that I bid to on a regular basis. So maybe one of my vendors, Border State or Boston Electric, I'm going to click New Company. Again, the ID and the name, Boston Electric Supply, and I'm going to type the same as the name. This is still the company name. I could have put a short name there if I chose to. Once I do that, what type of company is Boston Electric Supply? I'm going to drop down. I get quotes from them. I get fixture quotes, gear quotes. I also get material prices from them on my pipe, my wire, so they can be more than one. I don't want to overwrite target. That's what Con Ed sent out the door. So I'm going to put them in slot 3 and click OK. And click OK. And notice they're both. I'm then going to fill in their address as well. And I fill in all of this information just so I get a nice professional looking report or information when I am sending out to it. Again, once I add in a company, I have to have a contact. Who do I deal with over at Boston Electric? I'm going to add, and maybe over there, Mark Johnson. is my contact person, and I can put them in. If I want to give Mark a job title, I certainly can. He's my sales rep. And I continue to, excuse me, add in my companies in the way that I'm doing so far. Excuse me. Again, if there's another contact I want to add over there, I simply click add and I put in a first name and a last name. So now I have two folk to choose from. I continue to put them in. I'm going to add in another supply house. I'm going to do new company, and I'm going to add in standard supply. Same thing for the name. Once I add that name in, I like to put that company type in before I forget it. I get quotes from them. I also get material prices from them. I'm going to put them in slot 4. Then I'm going to go ahead and put in the address, all right? And I continue to add in my information as I go. Again, contacts, who do I deal with over at Standard? I'm going to add in, and over there, I deal with Philip. I put his information in, click OK, and if I want to put a job title, I can. So I continue to put in my own company, and I continue to put in my vendors that I deal with. I can put any contractors that I deal with on a regular basis. So now I want to add a GC. I'm going to do a new company, and this time I deal with Burns Construction. And I'm going to click OK. Again, company type, they would be considered a contractor. Okay. Now, some of you all might put in customers. You can also have someone who is your customer, but the computer needs to recognize them as a contractor as well in order to show them when you intend to send out a bid proposal. So I'm going to click OK. Again, I could now go in here and, you know, pretty up, put an address and so forth on it. And then I can go ahead and add whatever I need to put in here. And I continue to go this way. Contacts, who do I deal with over at Burns? Again, I'm going to add, and maybe my contact is William Burns. Again, if I want to give them a job title, I certainly can if I choose to do that. Okay, so I continue on in this manner to get these in. I also want to put in any rental yards that I deal with on a regular basis. New company, and maybe this is citywide rentals. If I want to copy that information and then paste it, I can certainly do it that way as well. So I have citywide rentals. Again, what type of company are they? Company type, I get quotes from them. All right. Again, who do I deal with? That would be my, well, I would put in my address for these folk as well. Okay. And then I have everything typed in here that I need. And I put a nice complete address in so that everything will have the needed information in it. Again, contacts, who do I deal with over at Citywide Rentals? I'm going to add, and generally over there, I deal with Ken. And if I don't know Ken's last name, I'm just going to put a period on the line to hold that in. But his last name is Stewart, so I'll put that in because sometimes you may not know the last name. All right. Then the last one I'm going to put in, maybe Home Depot. I go to Home Depot. That could be considered a vendor because I purchase things from there or rent things from there. So I'm going to do new company. And again, I'm going to type in Home Depot. The ID and the name can certainly be the same thing. Click OK. Now, the company type, again, I get probably material vendor, put them in slot 5 if I get materials from them, but maybe I also get quotes on some things from them as well. Okay, so they can be more than one. Now, I put in my address for Home Depot and my contact. I don't really know who I'm dealing with, so I'm just going to add somebody over there for the counter. Whoever's at that counter, that's who I'm dealing with. Okay, so I've added in some of my company's contacts. Once I have all of my companies and my contacts added in, maybe I want to finish my users. If I go to maintenance, notice I can't do anything. I'm in as an admin, but if I go to user access, here are the users within my company. Maybe I want to give these users credentials to be able to log in. So whatever I want to give them to be able to log into the software, I'm putting in the passwords and so forth so that they can log in. I'm going to apply new password, and I have this user set up as a power user, meaning they can do everything. Maybe my other users are not power users. Maybe I don't want them to be able to do everything. But for this user, I put in their credentials, and I'm going to say give them access to all jobs if I'm on a network situation and I want them to be able to see all jobs. So once I do that, now everything is saved. That means now I can actually log in as this user because I want to create some jobs and so forth. I cannot do that when I'm logged in as an admin. So in order, excuse me, for me to log in this user, I'm going to click on Home and log in. And I get a little dialog box. If this is what I want to log into, I'm just going to type in my credentials here, my user ID and my password. And then I'm going to, let's try that again. And then that logs me into the program, okay? It logs me in. Now I am in as a user. So now if you look at that, I can create new jobs. I can do other things. Can I still add more companies? Of course I can. All my company's contracts are still there. Contacts, I can still add on other ones if I needed to. All right. So now what I'm going to do, I am going to create my bid template. If I create my bid template, it will have all of my standard rates in my template. So in order for me to create my own bid template, I'm going to go down here to maintenance. Anytime I click maintenance, that's permanent. Maintenance and bid template. When you get the program from us, you get several templates that we send out the door for you to use. Expanded, basic, expanded overhead and profit. If you look at that, it basically shows me journeyman, foreman, apprentice. If I'm more of a low voltage contractor, I would use the same sheet, but with the data. Now it shows me technician, cable installer, and so forth. So we have other templates available for you to use. You pretty much have to find the template that's closely to what it is you want to do. If I look at the standard template, it gets me into weather percent, occupied percent, poor design. So again, when we send the program out the door, it defaults to this first one, the basic expanded O&P. So the reason I came here is because I want to go here and fill in my rates, my bid rates for my project management and so forth. I do not want to overwrite the basic template that Conrad sent out the door because this template is full of formulas and I don't want to take a chance and mess up a formula. So I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to do copy and I'm going to copy the basic expanded, but I'm going to call this my sheet because that's my company name. And that's the sheet that I'm going to use. I click OK. Now on this sheet, I feel more comfortable putting in things and making changes because if I do mess something up, I can always get back to that original sheet, okay? Now over here, I'm going to say, once I fill in my sheet, I always want it to default to my sheet. Every time I create a new job, let it go ahead and default to my sheet. So now in the red, those are the things that I'm going to change. My rate for my journeyman. I bid my journeyman at $60 an hour. I bid my apprentice one at, let's say, at $52 an hour. And I bid my apprentice at $46 an hour. So I'm just putting these rates. This does not mean that's what's in the paycheck. That is the bid rate. I need to ask myself, does this rate include my burden, my workman's comp, my insurance? If all of that is included in that $60, then I do not need to do that. If it is not included in the $60, my burden percent, workman's comp insurance, I'm going to say that's another 10%. So I type that 10% in and it'll go all the way down and base everything on G9. Fringe dollars, vacation pay, holiday pay, is that all included in the 60? If it is, I don't need to worry about it. If it is not, then I can certainly put those numbers in separately. And these are dollars. So I have $2.20 fringe on my journeyman, on my apprentice. I have $1.80 as the fringe. Fix that here. And I'm just typing those in. Let's do that again. I'm just typing those values in, okay? And then over here, maybe I have $1.20. So I'm typing those values in. So I'm gonna have $60 an hour plus another 10% plus that. For a lot of people, in the $60, $52 may already include the burden and the fringe. If it does, then I'm gonna get rid of this and set this back to 0, okay? If this is already included in that $60, again, I'm gonna set that back to 0. So again, I just wanna make sure that we understand how we do that, and you do not want to double dip because the system doesn't know. It's going to do exactly what you tell it. As we look at this sheet, I have a crew mix of 1 journeyman and 1 foreman. If that sounds okay, we can leave it as is. Remember, anything that I'm changing in red, I can always do it at the job level. I'm just creating my template. Project management, what do I bid my project management at? Maybe I bid my project management at $65 an hour. Again, that $65 an hour doesn't go anywhere until I get into a job and I say I'm going to bid about 80 hours of project management. Draftsman, maybe I want to change that name to be CAD operator. Maybe I like that terminology better. So I'm just typing that in. Okay. Again, what is the rate? They charge $90 an hour. So again, I'm going to already have that in there so that that value is already there. When I get into a job, I can say how many hours they have, but the values are already there. Safety is a big one. You spend a lot of time in safety, estimating. Someone's got to estimate this job. Again, I don't want you to feel like you have to put something on every line. If you do, you're not going to get any jobs. So be real careful with this. Don't feel like you have to put something everywhere. Equipment depreciation. A lot of times, maybe I want to account for those little small tools that's going to come up missing. It's going to come up broken. Those kind of conveniently walk off the job site. If I do that, it is a percentage of my direct labor. Most people who use this, they will go anywhere maybe from 0.5% up to 2%. So I'm just going to put in 1% right there, just to recap for some of that stuff, to include that. Tools expendable, all the stuff I'm going to have to replace, my cutting oil, sawzall blades, all of that, I'll put 1% there as well. Okay. Again, I won't see these values until I get into the middle of a job. Field storage, do I ever have to rent storage units or maybe a Connex box? I've called around to find out what that Connex box is, $95. Office trailer, do I ever have to store any materials? Or I'm sorry, I have an office trailer on site. I've called around, that's $350. I'm just putting in these fixed costs, so at job time, I am not calling around. Field office utilities, telephone, toilet, fencing. Living allowance, sometimes my workers have to spend, if there's a job that's out of town, out of state, and they spend a night, do I pay the per diem? If so, what do I pay? I'm gonna say I put in $50 per day is their per diem. When I get to the job, I can put how many nights and how many resources are. Travel expense per mile, do they have to drive their own vehicle ever to get to a job site? If so, do I pay that mileage? If so, whatever that rate would be is what I put in. Maybe it's 58 cents per mile if that's something that I pay. Again, these values doesn't go anywhere until I get into a job and put how many miles or how many nights. Overhead. What is my overhead? If you're not sure what your overhead percentage is, you may want to talk to your accounting folk or to your controller. And I'm just going to put it at 10% here for everything. I want to be able to pick up automatically 10%. Remember, anything that I'm typing in red, I can certainly overwrite it at the job level. I'm just typing in some of my known pieces that I can get in there. All right. Profit. If I know my profit, again, if you're not sure about these things, talk with your accounting folk and they can get you on the right percentage, on the right track. These are percentages, you all. So I'm going to put in 5% as my profit. Now, I'm choosing to put profit on everything. Maybe you don't put it on all of them, or you can pick and choose the things that you certainly want to be able to put that on. Again, we're just going in, filling in our sheet so that when we get to a job, these things are already filled in. This is an ongoing process. You might use this job for a couple of bits and then think, you know what, I think I want to go back and look at it again, change some things, put some extra things in there. There is no save button. There is no undo button. Once whatever we do, it will hold in here. So now I have my sheet all set up. I'm going to go back over here to jobs. So at this point, I have not added any jobs. I've set up all of my company's contacts. I've set up my users who will be using the software. And now what I'm going to do is create a job. The first thing I want to do is create a job. I'm going to click new job. And for this job name, I'm going to say this is my webinar job. Notice it defaults to my bid template. So that's all I need to do. Put a job, click OK. I have a lot of buttons and tabs and bells and whistles at the bottom. It is not necessary for me to fill all that in, although I could. Occupancy type, the most important things over here on the right-hand side of the screen. You want to get in a habit of always putting in an occupancy type. Why do we want an occupancy type? If I do a lot of schools, it'd be good to be able to bring up all of my schools so that I could do bid comparison and bid analysis. I'm not going to be able to do that unless I'm choosing an occupancy type. If I do a lot of restaurants, it would be good to bring up all of my particular restaurants so I can do bid analysis, bid comparison. So for this job, I'm going to say that it is a office building. If I know the square footage, I want to put the square footage in. The square footage helps me because at the end, I'm able to get a cost per square foot. So if I have this little 6,000 square foot office building, it will give me a cost per square foot. I also want to choose the estimator. Here is the list of my people who could be estimating using this system. So I'm going to put a check next to my name. The last thing I would probably do is the bid due date. It defaults to today's date. I'm going to drop down and say this project is due next Tuesday. And what that allows me to do, again, it just allows me to be able to look up here and see when that project is due. On the 4th, it's not going to turn red and blow smoke at me. It just allows me a visual of when this particular job is due. Back to the occupancy type. What if the type of project that I'm doing is not in the list? Maybe I'm doing a data center. Maybe I'm doing a car dealership. Maybe I'm doing a bowling alley. These are things that are not in here. We put some standard things. So if I want to put something in here that's not in that list, I just click to close out of the list. And then I would right click, maintain drop down values, and add. So now I'm going to add this in as a data center. Okay. So now that data center will stay in my list forever, and it's available for me to choose it if I need it. Again, if there's something that I want that's not in this list, I close out of the list, I right click, maintain drop down values, and add. And maybe it's a car dealership. And I click OK. Again, that will stay at the list forever. I could rearrange them, but that's where they are. So that's all I need to do to set up my job. If I want to permanently set up my sales tax, a lot of people forget the sales tax. Under job info, there's a button called tax rates. Notice it's empty. If my sales tax, whatever state I'm in, if it's pretty constant, and let's say it's 6.25 for materials, I can put in that 6.25 there and put that in. Maybe I'm only going to do sales tax on material only, not these other things. If I do put them on the other things, I can certainly set those up as well. Because sales tax, sometimes people forget to hit that button. What we've done, default rates for new jobs. So if I click here, set current rate as default, that means any new job, any other jobs I add at this point will automatically have that 6.25 sales tax, so I don't have to remember to always go here. If the job is tax exempt, I can easily remove the tax at the end of the job. One of the other things that I could do, bidding contractors, if I want to say I intend to submit a bid, I can certainly click add. It only shows the people that I had set up as a contractor. It is not showing all of my supply houses. It's not showing my rental yards. It's only showing the people that I said were contractors. Okay. Now I have my job set up and I'm going to go into my Takeoff. So when I click on Takeoff on my sidebar, it takes me into my Takeoff. This is where you're going to spend probably 75% of the time. I'm going to go through and take off one item just so we can get our screen view set up. This session is not really about how to do Takeoff. Again, this session is more on how we want to go in and get some things set up. So I'm going to quickly take off an item here. So I'm going to click on Fixture Assembly with Branch. Whatever environment I'm working in, if you look at this, these are the same exact assembly choices. The only difference is how they're going to be installed, what environment. This is going to affect the labor. So I'm going to say I'm going to use T-bar bar joist with 3/4 EMT. Now, what type of fixture is it? Is it an LED, fluorescent? Is it incandescent? You all have to get in the habit scrolling over to the right to find what it is that you want to take off. So this example, I'm going to say it's an LED 2x4 lay-in. I now need to choose my MC cable. I'm just checking which coupling, which fitting. I'm going to say it's an EMT steel set screw. If I'm clicking the wrong thing, or I click two of them by mistake, what I like to do is just highlight what I want, then check the box. Highlight what I want, then check the box. And then do I want the ground? I'm going to choose that and take off. Before I put in my values, it allows me to put a comment in, a better way to identify it. I'm going to identify this as a type A. That's what it was called on the fixture schedule. That's what I'm going to call it. So number of fixtures, I have 40 of them. Enter prompt. Conduit or cable mounting height, that's my ceiling height. I'm going to, for this office building, I'm going to put that at 12 feet. Now I turn on my num locks. If I don't want to use the mouse, I don't have to. Fixture mounting height, mount that a little bit lower at 10 feet. Fixtures per junction box, I'm going to set that at 2. Average feet between those boxes, again, it's just an average. I'm going to put in 15, and the number of wires in the pool. In the previous screen, I chose the ground. So over here, I'm just going to choose my other 2 wires. I always close my library. Now let's look at what we have. If you look at the screen, it's not quite showing everything that I want. I can't really read that description like I want. I have a lot of stuff over here to the right. It is not necessary to see all that. So I'm going to try to clean this up a little bit so I can stretch out that description so I can kind of see at least what that says. Now I'm not able to see this. So my quantity doesn't need to take up that much space. I'm going to place my mouse here and just simply double click it so it will resize it for me. Unit of measure doesn't need to be that big. I'm going to place my mouse here, double click it so that it resizes it for me. The factor, maybe I can get that a little smaller. So now I'm kind of getting my screen where I can see what I want. I can see the size looks pretty good. I can see that. I'm able to see my descriptions look pretty good. I can see my quantities. I can see my unit of measure. And the last thing I want to really be able to see is this labor result, material result and labor result. Again, I have a lot of information over here to the right. If I need to see it, I can scroll over, but I don't want to spend my whole day scrolling. So I kind of put the things that are important to me, excuse me, on this screen, okay? I'm going to go through, take off something else here. Let's say I'm using MC cable this time, and it's a LED surface. Again, I'm going to say I'm using aluminum jacket. I check what I want. I click take off. Again, I'm going to put in my comment. I'm then going to come over here and put in the value that I have, and I'm going to answer the rest of my questions. Again, I get more depth into this takeoff piece when I'm doing the takeoff webinar. This webinar, again, is to show you how to set up some things. So I'm closing my library. Again, I'm just doing my takeoff. Notice I'm doing a lot of scrolling, and I'm going to do one more fixture here. And this time I have a fluorescent surface here. I'm going to choose what I need that to be. I highlight the fitting that I want. and I choose the ground. Now, this time I forget to put my comment in. I forgot. I go over here and I put in my values. Conduit mounting height, I'm just putting in my values again of what I need here. Now, as I look at this, I'm all done with my takeoff, but I'm constantly scrolling. If I'm done with my takeoff, I need to be able to review this quickly. Do I have everything? This icon here is called Collapse Expand. If I click that, it will get rid of all the yellow stuff. Now I can quickly put my eye on it. And as I look at it, I see that I forgot to put my comment on this one. So if I forgot to put my comment anywhere on the red square, that line, I'm just going to right click, insert a comment. Put in my type C, and I'm going to put that value as the same thing. Now, if I click on this collapse expand, I can quickly put my eye. I'm in a review mode. Okay, I got 40 of my type A's, got 22 type B's, I got 18 type C's. Everything looks good. I'm not clouded with all the yellow detail. The yellow detail is included in the material result and the labor result. I just opted not to see it. If I want to see the yellow detail, I click it and the yellow detail comes back. One of the other things that I can do, notice my library takes up a lot of real estate. I would rather see more takeoff. So this icon here is called Resize Grid. If I click it, it just gets rid of the library. So I can see more takeoff now. I still have to scroll a little bit, but I can see it. But of course, I need that library back down here in order to continue my takeoff. So if I click it again, the library comes back. So these are very nice tools as you're using the program. This one gets rid of the yellow stuff, the yellow detail, whereas this one will remove the library and give me more real estate. So that's how we want to use those. So as we continue to take off, I never have to change my screen view again. It should stay in this format, the way in which I have my view set up. Once I've gone through and I've done some of my takeoff, the next thing maybe will go is into my summary. So when I click on summary, well, I'm going to put some things in another phase here just so we can have another phase here. So I'll do receptacles and I'll go with some 1 gang. And this is a commercial building. I want 20 amp. I'm going to choose a plastic plate, 5/8 rise for my plester ring, 12/2 for my MC cable. If I need to put in a comment, again, these are my 1 gang duplex receptacles, or maybe these are room 201, or however you decide to identify that. I have 50 of them. I'll put that in to our cable average length. Maybe I have 20 feet between them, and I'm going to put a hanger every 4 feet. Okay, I always close my library so that I'm setting myself up for the next thing I intend to take off. Notice it leaves the same format up here across the top. As I do my takeoff, now I'm at 2959 for the job total, but for this device phase, I'm at 1,248 and 65 labor hours according to ConES. Again, we get more into the labor and what are the different labors I have available for me when I do the takeoff class. Once I'm complete with this, I'm going to go to my summary. When I go into my summary, it brings me here. Again, notice my summary. This is everything I've taken off, regardless of if it came from fixtures or device or branch. This is everything. Again, I have a lot of columns on this screen that I have to scroll over to see if I need them. What I can do, these are the main things that I need to see are these here, but I'm going to add something else to my screen. Maybe I want to add a price edit date. Remember, ConES is not a pricing service. When you get the software from us, it has a price on it, and it's up to you to maintain your prices. But I'm going to, there's a column over here called price edit date. So if I scroll over and if I want to bring that column a bit closer, I just simply pick it up and just drag it over. I'm just dragging it over to where I want to drop that. And I'm going to drop it right here. And then there's going to be one more column that I want to bring over, this prompt column. I like to use that, and I'll explain that. So I'm going to bring that prompt column. Notice I'm just dragging that column over to where I want to put it. It may take me a couple of tries to get it where I want, but that's okay. I just drag it over, okay? However I set this up, that's where that prompt column will remain. So now I have all of my columns the way that I want, so I'm not scrolling to find a lot of different things that I need. And now I can see my quantity, my size, my description, my material unit, any factors, my material result, labor unit, any factors, labor result. So if I look at one of these items here, for example, if I look at let's see, we should have a box in here. If we look at this box, I have 29 of them, 1.5 inches deep. They cost $1.03. $1.03 times 29 equals $30.08. I have a labor unit of 0.12, which is about 7 minutes. 0.12 times 29 is 3.48 labor hours. So I'm looking at material dollars and labor hours. Now, in my summary, if I need to send this out to a supply house, I can certainly send these things out for pricing. If I'm using a pricing service such as NetPricer or Epic or Trade Service, I can click on any of those, and then real time it will bring the new values in for me. Again, I get into more detail in that when I talk about doing summary. The main piece over here was that I get my screens set up the way that I want them to be set up. When I am in summary, if I have several hundred items in here, in this case, I don't have that many, but it's very easy to miss a value. My zero values, in this case, all my fixtures are zeros because I'm probably going to get a quote at the end. If I click on M result, it resorts all the lower price to higher, if you look at that. So therefore, I cannot miss a lower value because it was way down at the bottom. If I click on M result again, it resorts it higher tag to lower. This is the stuff that's really driving my job. These may be the things that I really want to get prices on. So just by clicking on some of their sort reviews, some of the sort views will allow me to do that. Now, if I'm in a situation where I need to send this out to my supply house, if I drop down here and say material cost request, I am requesting material cost. It gives me a nice report. I always look to see how many pages I'm dealing with. Now, how am I going to send this report out to my supply house? I can print it and fax it the old-fashioned way, or I can make a PDF out of it. If I make a PDF out of it, no one could change any price quantities or anything, or I can send it to Microsoft Excel if I have Microsoft Excel on my computer. So you have some options to send these 2 pages out. If I'm in a situation where I don't want to send a 2 or 3 page report, I only want to just get prices on my pipe, my wire, that's why I put the prompt box over. So in that case, if I go down maybe and highlight my EMT, I can place a check mark in that. Okay, if I want to get prices on my luminary cable, I'm just placing now a check mark in the things that I want to be able to get pricing on. Okay, rather than me sending out a big 4-page report. So once I check the things that I need, I would then go to this report, and instead of the material cost request, that's everything, I'm going to choose prompt items only. Now these are the only items that I will send out to my supply house. And that will allow me to just send out the items that I need pricing on. So I'm going to close that. So that's why I bought the prompt. If you're not sure what I want, take out your phone right now, take a second and snap a shot of the screen, and then you'll know what things that you want to have on your screen in your immediate view. Okay? So once my summary is complete, if I feel comfortable with that, my next thing would be my bid recap. I'm going to click on bid recap. Again, the bid recap reminds me of anything that I had prompted. If in my takeoff I had created any specialty type items and I needed a reminder later, this would be it. Most of this stuff here, I've already dealt with it back in here if I change prices, so I'm just going to hit finish. Now that brings me into my bid recap. One of the things I want to make sure that I can see everything, and this is a pretty good view. Really only need to see columns 1 and 2. Sometimes I notice on people's system, it may be, you know, like over here where you're not able to see everything. It's kind of like that. So if your screen comes through like that, you just want to kind of pull this out a bit so at least you can see columns 1 and 2. Okay. So now we're going to go through and check on our thing. We have all these tabs. If we go to direct labor, well, let's do quotes. If I need some quotes, I can highlight add quote, and whatever that fixture quote came in as, I can put in that value. I had one quote for 3,000. I can certainly say, who did I get it from? I got that from Standard. So that if there's any issue, I know I need to call Philip about it. I got a second quote, add quote. It gives me a blank line, and I'm going to say this other one came in for 3,500. Again, if I want to say the vendor that I did receive that from, Boston Electric, and it shows in there. I can add quotes, whether I say who they came from or not. Whether I say who they came has no bearing. That's just a visual for me. Once I have all of my quotes in, I can choose which one I want to use in the bid. I'll go with the lowest one. And it places a check and dumps that in. Let's say I have 2 gear prices. I highlight my switch gear, add quote. Again, on my gear, maybe I got $4,000 on it. If I want to say who I got it from, I certainly can. I got a second gear price for $4,200. If I want to say who I got that from, again, I can certainly go over here and choose my vendors. Remember, these are coming from when we set those up in the beginning. It's only showing the people that I said were quote vendors. It's not showing all of my GCs. Only the people that I said was a quote vendor. So that's why that becomes important. Which one do I want to use in my bid? I check that. Equipment. Do I need to rent any equipment to do my job? If so, I need a backhoe, add quote. Again, I'm going to say that's $600. That's the only one I'm going to put in. If I want to choose a vendor, it came from Citywide Rentals, I then must check it to add it to my bid. Subcontracts. Am I subbing anything out? Maybe I'm going to sub out the fire alarm. Add quote. And I got one price in for my fire alarm at $2,800. And I'm going to go ahead and add that to my bid. All right. Now my direct labor. I have 179 labor hours. So it takes a crew mix of 1 journeyman, 1 apprentice. It takes a 179, splits them in half so that each resource gets 89.6 hours. There is my rate that I already put in when I put in the sheet. I don't need to do anything else. It's already calculated in my labor because I preset that. Okay. Remember I said my burden and all that was already part of that. Overtime hours. If I have some overtime, I could certainly put those hours here. Indirect labor. There's the rate for my project management. On this little small job, maybe I'm going to say I have about 20 hours of project management. So now it takes the 20 hours times the $65 rate and extends it over. CAD, I already have that at $90 an hour. And if whatever they bill me for on CAD, they bill me at 8 hours for it. And then that 8 hours gets extended over, okay? Again, I can overwrite any of these values if I choose. Direct job cost. Again, there's the 1% on my equipment depreciation and my tools. It's already there. It extends over. It doesn't equate to a large amount, but on a large job, it can make a big difference. There's the cost of my field storage, the cost of my office trailer. It doesn't go anywhere until I say for this job, I am going to have to store some materials. The quantity I need to store some materials for 4 months. Let's double click that. So I can put in my 4 months here, and then it takes the 4 months times the $95 extended over. Maybe I have to have a trailer on site. I don't need to call around to see how much a trailer costs because I've already have these in my fixed costs, and maybe I'm going to have to be out on that job site for 7 months. Okay, and it extends it over. Living allowance, there's the $50 a day per diem. If I do have some job that's out of town and I do have to have folk to stay over on that job, maybe I have 3 people who have to be on that job for 2 nights each. So 3 times 2 would be 6 is what I would put in here. So then it takes my 6 times my $50 per diem. Okay, travel expense, again, I'm just filling in. Final price. I have something scrolling. If it's scrolling, I need to stop and read what that says. The following quotes require attention switchgear. The following quotes require attention switchgear. It's going to keep scrolling until I do something. So I need to go back to quotes and see what's going on. If I click on quotes, okay, under switchgear, I put my 2 values in. I don't understand the issue. The issue is I never chose anyone. I never selected. I was about to leave $4,000 on the table. It would not let me do it. So it said there was an issue. Once I check it and go back, I should be okay. Notice it brings in my sales tax. If I'm in a different jurisdiction and that now it should be 7%, I can certainly make it 7%. Okay. Here's my total material dollars. There's my quoted materials, direct labor dollars. Here's my equipment, the backhoe. Here's my subcontract, my fire alarm. There's my overhead is already there. My profit is already there. I can certainly overwrite this and do anything that I choose to do within this sheet. Okay. If I go back to my direct labor, I just realized at that point I have to get into occupied space as overtime. I have 179 hours. For overtime hours, maybe 40 of them will be overtime. So I put in the 40. I still have the same amount of hours on this job. It's just saying now 139 are regular and the other 40 are overtime. The overtime is calculated down here. I have a crew mix of 1 journeyman, 1 apprentice. So it takes the 40 hours, splits them in half. Each resource gets 20 hours. And then I have time and a half. $60 up here, time and a half is 90. If the overtime hours I'm going to give all to the journeyman, I could set that apprentice to 0. That forces all 40 hours to go to the journeyman. Okay, so just some things that you want to do. Once I'm done, I'm going to look at my graphs. This is just a pictorial view. I cannot change anything. Bid overview. 33% of my job is labor at $11,000. 20% is quotes at $7,000. 8% is materials, $2,900. Overhead, and I see the percentages. Material subtotals. How much of this job looked like most of it was Romex MC? 36% of it at that much. Hangers on support, 26. EMT, 8%. Again, labor, we had journeyman, apprentice. Quotes, we had gear, fixtures. I cannot change this, but it may jar my memory. I need to get a quote for my UPS systems. I forgot that. Or equipment. Oh, I also needed a scissor lift. Subcontract. So it's just a pictorial view. I then go to my top sheet. Once I'm all done, if I am ready to submit this, I'm going to go to edit proposal. It will allow me to change anything in here that I may want to change, any nomenclature. If there was something else that I was excluding, I can certainly add in 8th line right here, and it will be real time if you decide to use our summary. Okay. There are no breakouts on this job. I'm going to unclick that. There are no alternates. I'm going to uncheck that, save and exit. I am now ready to submit this. I cannot submit this job until I freeze it. For right now, I'm only concerned about line A. I would never send that out with 42 cents. Maybe I want it to be 35,000 even, or however I want to round it up. But I know for me, I would not put that out there. And now I like that number better. Now I can freeze it. Now that it's frozen, I am able to submit my proposal. I can click on submit proposal. I don't need to see that. Then it shows everyone in my company, but it also shows the person I intend to submit a bid to. I'm going to print it to the screen. If the email is set up, I could email them to them. I'll print it to my screen. I'm going to click done. And once that is done, if you're still able to see my screen, I can show you how to put your logo on it. This is me, Continental Electric. This is who it's going to, Burns Construction, attention to William. And then it has all of my nomenclature inclusions for a lump sum of $35,000. Okay. Again, this session was more about how to preset some of your things so that you're not spending a lot of time in your takeoff dealing with screen views, and you're not spending a lot of time in your bid recap going back and forth typing in labor rates when they can already be there. All right. Thank you for your participation. If you have any questions, you can certainly give us a call. Thank you so much. You all have a great day.